Hi, welcome to Philosophy 2000, Introduction to Ethics. I'm your professor this semester, John Silbert. I've been at Robert Morris University for about 10 years, taught in the English Studies department and in the Communications department, teach courses in humanities, ethics, world religions, and I'm glad to be with you online this summer. I want to begin with a little bit of a sense about who I am, and then a little bit about the course, and kind of set the context for our study together. I'm coming to you from my study at home. Yeah, I have lots of books, and but it is part of who I am. I am both an adjunct professor and I'm also a pastor. I'm a Presbyterian minister. On campus, what that leads me to do is to teach, but also to be part of the Campus Ministry Association. And this year, coming into the new academic year, 2012-2013, I'll be the chairperson of the Campus Ministry Association. So I wear a couple different hats on campus. But for you and for me here in this space online, I'm a prof. Call me Prof S, call me Prof, call me Professor Silbert when you write to me. Don't use text messaging language with me. Please don't do that. But I'm happy to be talking with you in a virtual capacity as we go through this course together. Let me say a couple of things about how this course is constructed. Ethics. What do we do with ethics? They are the actions we take based on our beliefs and what we hold true and dear. And so as we look at ethics, we're going to be looking at ethics from the point of view of story. And I'm going to get a book here. It's the book for the semester. It's right here. It is The Moral of the Story, 7th edition, by Nina Rosenstand. And Nina has put together a great volume for us because she's trying to talk about our stories and all the stories that have been out there told in so many different ways in movies and plays and good literature and television, serial comedy, everything you can imagine, to invite thoughtful reflection about our beliefs and the actions we take based on those beliefs. Fact of the matter is, you and I are narratives in the making. We're writing the story of our lives by the actions we take. Sometimes the story is being written for us by others, by the actions they take that affect us. All right? Let me give you a definition of narrative and the importance of narrative. Narrative is another way of talking about storytelling. And here's the function of storytelling. It gives us two things: identity and community. When you get together with friends, say you've been away for a while, maybe you were at a semester on campus or you spent a year on campus and you go home to be with your buddies for the first time in a long time. One of the first things you do is get together in a group somewhere. And as soon as you get together in a group somewhere, what do you start doing? One or the other of you says, hey, remember that time? And all of a sudden, a story gets told. And that story begins to center everybody, to include everybody. Because at some point, one of the others of your friends says, yeah, wait a minute. But you got to remember, and they're adding to the narrative that you're retelling. And what you're doing is you're compiling, you're assembling this shared story. And in a way, you're building community again based on that story. And as the story's told and you remember the parts of it, either the parts you played or the parts you experienced, it is providing an opportunity for your identity. Now, Nina Rosenstand, the author of the textbook, adds the idea that stories also provide a sense of order, a sense of first things in the development of who we are as the human family in the various cultures in which we've lived through time. I think that's true. You have your own culture that is based, first of all, with your family, your birth family, with those dear friends you have known and who you continue to know and nourish and are nourished by as you get together. The workplace where you're working, the community at school, where all these different places you are building together both identity and community. And it does provide a sense of order. Now, the book is called The Moral of the Story. And so all along, I'm going to be asking you a fundamental question. Here's the syllabus that I give to the face-to-face folks that I teach in ethics. And at the bottom of the syllabus, let me see if I can do that. There it is. See that question? How then shall I live? That's the question that I want us to be asking this semester as we think about ethics, the actions we take based on our morally held beliefs. And so that is the final exam question for you this semester. Your final paper is worth 30% of your grade. That's the question. How then shall I live? Now, what happens in the storytelling that we are doing all along, the narratives that we're writing and or being written for us on our lives by others, we're constantly interpreting things that happen to us, the events that take place, and or reinterpreting those events, those experiences, which then in some ways go back to the past that we've had and anticipate the future. And so we are constantly in an interpretive mode. As we look at the various philosophical points of view ethically in the semester, I want you to be always asking yourself that primary question. Given these things, how then shall I live? Because ultimately that final exam paper is going to be a thoughtful reflection for you on that question as you relate the things you've learned to your life story. Through the semester, there are going to be various discussion threads and writing assignments that I'm going to be asking you to express yourself and to do some of that integration. Partly as a way of getting you ready for that final exam. It's a paper, by the way. It's not a test. A thoughtful paper. But nevertheless, to get you used to integrating what you're learning online and through this course and through the textbook and what I've brought to you through videos and other things with that fundamental story you are writing. How then shall I live? Let me leave you with a story here in this brief introduction. It comes from the great Protestant reformer. You know, that's me, a minister, right? He's a Protestant reformer. He ultimately founded what is now the Lutheran Church. His name was Martin Luther. I'm not talking about Martin Luther King Jr. He was named for Martin Luther, but Martin Luther was a Protestant reformer in the early 1500s. He was once in his life an Augustinian monk, a priest practicing in the Roman Catholic tradition. And as he was practicing in his tradition, he felt things weren't quite right. You know, he had learned in becoming a priest and in living his life to draw lines, different places beyond which he could not go. And then, of course, he would find a new experience or have a new experience, and perhaps the line held fast, but sometimes the line changed. On October 31st, 1517, Martin Luther put up on a board at a church, Castle Church, Wittenberg Cathedral Church, 95 statements of issue and concern that he had with the church that had been his mother church. Again, he's a Roman Catholic priest, but he puts up these 95 statements, things that he felt needed to change. And it was a way for him, in a sense, to redraw lines in his own life. How then shall I live? Eventually, of course, by 1521, the powers that be in the Roman Catholic Church said, Martin, we need to talk. And so he was brought before a board of inquiry. It was called a diet. Not the kind of diet you take where you only eat grapefruit or something like that. No. This was a formal board of inquiry. And at that board, he was asked to recant what was now a pretty strong effort on his part to move away from the things that he felt were disturbing and troubling about Roman Catholicism. And this is what Martin Luther said. By the way, here's a picture of him from a book entitled Young Luther, German fellow. He said this: unless I am convinced by sacred scripture or by evident reason, I cannot recant, for my conscience is held captive by the word of God, and to act against conscience is neither safe nor right nor safe. Here I stand. I can do no other. God help me. It was in April of 1521. What Luther was doing in that time was redrawing the line that he had set for himself, a boundary beyond which he could not pass. And I don't want you to get wrapped up in the theological elements of that statement per se. But for Luther, he had to draw lines somewhere in his life, the boundaries in which he operated, his own rules for his own life living. As you and I work through Philosophy 2000, I think that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be asking you to examine that question, how then shall I live? On the basis of the lines you've drawn in your life. Your parents probably gave you a whole bunch of lines when you were younger of how to live. And some of those hold fast and true. They're good. They're strong lines. And some of those lines perhaps have been redrawn because, frankly, the world has gotten a little more complex, a little more gray. You've had experiences and otherwise that have changed your opinion about those things. And you have a different belief at this point. I want you to reflect on where you are and on what you're becoming. Because that really is what we're all about when we write these narratives. We're on a journey. And that journey is taking us from where we are, who we are, to what we are becoming. And perhaps in that a new threshold of being. So anyway, welcome to Philosophy 2000 and this online course at Robert Morris University. And I'm glad to be with you. Look forward to our time together as we communicate virtually. And look for some other videos from me occasionally here and there. Perhaps not so long, but also the assignments that we're going to be doing in the reading. It's important that you read and to do that work of integration. So I look forward to learning about who you are. There's an assignment this first week. It's Credo, and then it says, what story am I in? And it's a thoughtful exercise from one of my colleagues, Dr. John O'Banion, that he's graciously let me borrow this semester. I think it's a good way to get us started. So I look forward to our time together. Take care. Have a good day.